A call for change. Iraq's Prime Minister proposes sweeping reforms in an effort to improve state finances and reduce corruption. But do the measures go far enough to fix Iraq's political instability? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Sami Zaidan. Corruption, attacks, the battle against ISIL, a fragile economy and political chaos. Just some of the challenges facing Iraq. Well, after weeks of protests calling for better government services and an end to corruption, Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi has unveiled changes. One of his proposals includes slimming down his government by eliminating the positions of Vice President and Deputy Prime Minister. He says the goal is to improve government performance and reduce corruption. Iraq's cabinet has backed the proposals, but the plan still needs approval from Parliament. Mohammed Jamjoon is in Baghdad with this report.
The political establishment in Iraq very much shaken up by these decisions taken by Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi, in which he said he wanted to dismiss the 3 vice presidents in the country as well as the 3 deputy prime ministers. Now, already the cabinet here has met in an emergency session. They have approved those measures. This was an emergency session by the Council of Ministers, and they say they are behind the Prime Minister's decisions to let these officials go, to try to streamline the political process here, to try to end corruption and to try to end spending that isn't necessary. What's interesting here is now this must go to Parliament. We were on the streets of Baghdad just a short while ago talking to average citizens, many of them very pessimistic about the prospects of these decisions being ratified in Parliament. Many of the people that we spoke with said that they believe that it's rampant corruption in Parliament still, that even though people are mobilized right now, that thousands of them are coming out into the streets asking for an end to corruption, despite all that, they believe that Parliament possibly won't ratify these decisions. Now, that's going to be very difficult because right now there's a lot of pressure on the highest levels of the government here, especially MPs, to make sure that they look, that they appear, that they are doing all they can to fight corruption and to provide basic services for Iraqi people. Now, one more thing to note. This past Friday also, the highest Shia religious authority in this country, based on guidelines issued by the highest Shia religious cleric here, Ali Sistani, they said that they were behind the Prime Minister, that they wanted him to do whatever he could to show the people that he was fighting corruption. Certainly, the mood on the streets is one saying that they are fed up, is that it's bad enough the security situation is what it is right now, that ISIL has taken over so much territory in this country. They want to return to services, they want an end to corruption, and they want to see that happen as soon as possible. Mohammed Jamjoon for Inside Story.
Well, let's take a look at some of the other measures Prime Minister Haider al-Abadi is proposing. Well, he wants to open investigations into government corruption, and he's called for an overhaul of the way senior officials are selected, ending party and sectarian quotas for government positions. Abadi also wants government officials to be stripped of some of their special privileges. So is Prime Minister Abadi's plan just what the country needs to get it back on track? Let's bring in the thoughts of our guests then to see what they think of that question. In Baghdad, Muwafaq al-Rabi, senior member of the Shia National Alliance Coalition and member of Parliament. In Erbil, Ala Makki, a member of the Wataniya Alliance and a former member of Parliament. And from Basra, joining us via Skype, the Al-Asadi chairman of the Al-Ahrar parliamentary bloc and representative of the Sadrist movement. And let me start with Mr. Muwafaq, if I may. You heard there in the report by our correspondent, there is a lot of worries about whether this proposal will ever see the light of day. Can it pass through Parliament?
I believe the 6 points plan of Mr. Prime Minister Abadi is a revolutionary, peaceful a change and bringing the political process back to the track. And I believe these 6 points have been is going to be implemented by the 32 points which the Prime Minister Abadi have put to the cabinet today and was ratified today, to how to execute these 6 points. Now, what he has to do as of tomorrow or the day after tomorrow to bring these 6 points, these strategic 6 points, as well as the 32 implementation plan or of plan of action to the Council of Representatives and to ask the Parliament to vote for it and vote.
Will they say yes, though, Mr.
approve
Muwaffaq?
it and go. I believe there is a positive environment, political environment in the country to say yes for this plan, because I think people have enough of this corruption, of this nepotism, of this partisan politics, and of sectarian, of code sets, and so on and so forth. This has to stop. Otherwise, all the political process will be down the drain.
All right, let me bring in Alat from Erbil. Do you agree with that assessment? Because basically what we're talking about here is Haider al-Abadi taking this through Parliament means taking on some political heavyweights like Noor al-Maliki. Is this a mission impossible?
Well, I think the principles of these points we all agree about, and they seem to be reasonable. But the revolutionary, attitude and the change altogether, I think it will be difficult, and there will be challenges in front of.
Okay, but as a matter of principle, sorry, you agree, as a representative of Wataniya, you agree with the proposals by Haider al-Abadi. Is that what we're hearing you say?
As a principle, but in this drastic change, it will not succeed, I think. There will be challenges. The Parliament will discuss it, and there will be exaggeration of the problems. While if we began to gradually solving each issue by a close dialogue and by unifying of the political reviews which is guided by the Prime Minister, that will be possible. Otherwise, I think it's sort of, emergency decisions, emergency plan. Emergency plan in such a case, we are in a chaos state, and there is the demonstrations, pressure. The people will not understand if we fail to do so, that as if we will fail altogether.
Okay,
so
I want to give you. I can see that Mr.
some of these issues.
Right, I want you to be a little more specific, if you don't mind, with me when you say we need to address these issues one by one, very briefly, because I need to give Mr. Diat a chance to come in, and I can see also Mr. Muwaffaq was shaking his head in disagreement, so I want to give both of these gentlemen a chance. But let's be clear about what we're talking about. What is it that he isn't addressing one by one through these proposals?
Well, we begin with the most important issues, say the electricity. Well, electricity, which is the vital issue now, we should offer some proposal to the people to minimize their tension for electricity. And I think, for example, we can give proposal that it's not oil is the problem, it's the corruption is the problem.
Okay,
so we leave
all right,
the
electricity
oil,
is one.
Oil ministry,
what are the others,
problems with the electricity ministry. The other issue is the security, which is vital. The change in the field situation with the ISIL. The situation should be maintained, we should have unified views, mainly politically, because political agreement, political union is the real problem. It is not the military.
Okay, so security is two. Is there another point before I move this along?
Under the leadership of the Prime Minister.
Okay, so I think we've got 2 points there. I wonder if Mr. Diat would forgive me, because I'm just going to give 30 seconds to Mr. Muwaffaq, because I could see you shaking your head in disagreement. In 30 seconds, Mr. Muwaffaq, can you tell me why you disagree with what Mr. Alat is saying? It seems a reasonable thing. Let's have a dialogue over...
To interrupt with others.
Right. To address corruption and security.
The time here is of the essence. We run out of time. There is no time. We have been calling to tackle the corruption, to security problems, to this quota problem, to the sectarian polarization in the country, to the malignant swelling of the government.
Understood.
And taking 80% of the national revenue in the country.
Okay.
That is the problem. This is a very good radical reform planned by the Prime Minister.
Okay, I think the 30 seconds are up, and I'm sure Alain wants to come back in. But before we do that, let's bring in the perspective of Diyar. We're hearing two perspectives here. The time is running out. We don't have time for talk on these issues, and you know, the government really needs to move on with these proposals and make some progress. Do you agree with that approach, Mr. Diyar?
No problem. Before I express my agreement or disagreement, I just need to confirm that had not Mr. Al-Abadi got the guarantee or the assurance of the Marja'iyya and the political parties, he wouldn't have passed these procedures or measures to be taken or to be voted for in the parliament. Because, I mean, today's session, the session of the cabinet was, it was because of the letter addressed by the Marja'iyya and by the political leaders, and in response to the demonstrations that broke into the streets of Iraq. So Dr. Al-Abadi, having put these 6 steps for reformation or for the parliament to vote for, he is quite sure that the majority of the parliament will be guaranteed, because the majority listened to the political leaders of this majority.
So you think this is going through?
Yeah, it is going to be, it is going to go through the parliament.
And is it a solution to Iraq's problems if it does go through?
As you know, the majority of the parliament belong to the Shia, to the coalition, and the coalition and the Shia cannot disobey the Marja'iyya recommendations or statement. Similarly, the political leaders, Sayyid Muqtada al-Sadr, Sayyid Ammar al-Hakim, and all of the senior political leaders asked Dr. Al-Abadi to do these reformations, and the 6 measures or steps he's going to take or he's offering for vote in the parliament, I'm sure they are going to be voted for.
All right, I want to give a chance to Alain again, because I could see you as well were shaking your head in disagreement. So I guess you want to add on something to the point Mr. Muwafiq said, which is time has run out on dialogue.
Yes, because I didn't interrupt my colleagues, so you have to return back to me to finish my talk.
Please go ahead, sir.
Look, I think the problem is not a parliamentarian decision. With all respect to the parliament and to the current situation, the problem is the execution of the decisions afterwards. We have no guarantee that the decisions of the parliament will be fulfilled, will be executed, because some agendas are governing the country, and some leaders are having a real behind curtain force. So if we decide, and the people will decide, well, who will give the guarantee that these decisions will be decided? Therefore, I said, practically, in a real sense, we have to dialogue, we have to, contain the situation gently, rather than drastically. Drastic treatments, like drastic surgery, have a lot of complications. Dr. Muwafiq Al-Ani previously he was a doctor, so he understands what I mean by gradual containing the problem and taking one by one and trying to treat it. This is my proposal and my suggestion.
Thank you very much for it.
We will increase the tension rather than relieve the tension.
All right. Since we're talking about specific problems, let me come back to Mr. Muwafiq and ask this question so that, I would like to really get into some specifics on this show. How, sir, will scrapping 6 senior government posts, I think it is, free up enough money to improve the sort of infrastructure, the sort of services that the country badly needs?
Well, let me tell you that it's not only scrapping these 6 senior positions, but there are thousands and thousands of what we call special grade position in the government, like the district general, director general, deputy ministers, the consultant advisors, president, vice prime minister, and all these thousands and thousands. MP, member of parliament, speakers, deputy speakers, and so on and so forth. And these are, we spend, the government, the state of Iraq spend billions and billions of dollars on them, on their personal detail, PSDs. They spend on their cars, vehicles. They spend on their traveling expenses, on their housing or accommodations, and so on and so forth. So we're talking about billions of dollars saving here.
Would
this
it be
is
enough?
number one.
Forgive me for interrupting,
So
Mr. Muwaffaq.
if we slash this by the half,
will it be enough to save, for example, the $20 billion deficit which the 2015 budget projects? And projects, I would say, on the basis of an assessment of $56 a barrel of oil. And yesterday, the price of the barrel dropped to 44. It could be even more than $20 billion in your budget deficit this year. Are you going to be able to save that much from these proposals?
It's at least it's a start. At least it's a beginning. It's something in the purse, if you like, to spend on the oppressed, poor, deprived people. At least to divert this money to electricity, to clean water, to creating jobs, to inject cash in the local economy, to stimulate the local economy, and to make a movement in the housing market, in the industrial market, and so on and so forth. So it is something in the right direction. True, it is not enough, but I think it's like a clean surgical operation, using Mr. Maki's
analogy
example.
There. All right, let me bring in Mr. Diar, and I will come back to Mr. Ala in a second. Mr. Muwaffaq there spoke about spending the money on the poor areas. Of course, you represent or associated with the Sadrist movement. That represents some of the less fortunate, shall we say, sections of Iraqi society economically. Are they cheering for this? Are they confident that the money which might be saved will go to improve services in their neighborhood? When we're talking about a country that is ranked, for example, by Transparency International at 170 out of 175 on the Corruption Perception Index?
Well, I don't think the slimming down of the government is going to solve the problems of the poor, because we have an experience. We have the 2011 government, when Mr. al-Maliki was asked to slim down his government, and there were 3 or 4 ministers that were sent to retirement. And then we didn't have any, the situation of the poor has not changed. This is not
perhaps,
the
forgive me for interrupting you as well, but perhaps Mr. Muwaffaq would probably say, but these are much more drastic measures that Haider al-Abadi is proposing now than what Mr. al-Maliki would have proposed in the past.
Well, I think these drastic measures are taken to appease the people who demonstrated or who broke into the streets, and to persuade the political partners that Dr. al-Abadi is taking the measures that al-Marja'iyya and the other political leaders are asking for. But I think the problem is not here. The problem is, since 2003, the Iraqi government has failed to plan, has failed to assess the needs and the resources of the country. It is all related to planning, really. It is all related to management. It is all related to the infrastructure or the institutional building of the institutions, the organization of the whole institutions. If you go to any ministry, you can't see a clear description of the jobs, a clear description of the roles and responsibilities of the employees at the senior level or even at the lower level. And this was the case since 2003. So the wastage of money cannot be solved by really asking the Deputy Prime Minister, although these are the demands of the people and they are well respected, and they might be a solution for a certain problem, but they are not going to be a solution for the country's persistent problems, the problems that started since 2003, since the change of the regime.
Okay.
As I said, I think the measures taken by Dr. al-Abadi, although they came in response to the demonstrators and to the Marja'iyya and the political leaders, they are not going to be the solution for the current problems of Iraq, because Iraq is really suffering from the lack of planning, the lack or the conflict between the central government, the national government, and the local government. There is a lack of law enforcement. There are so many problems related to the institutional structure, to the constitution as well. And all of these problems are hindering the government from fulfilling its programs.
Sorry,
So
Mr. Diar, who is to blame for the lack of planning? Is that not all the Iraqi politicians who are unable to work together over a medium or long term to plan for the country?
Well, I think the successive government are to blame, and the political parties participating in the political process are also to blame. There were voices right from the beginning of 2003 asking political parties to present those who are qualified, the technocrats, to run the country, and not relying on partisans or political leaders or people who are loyal to the political leaders. But unfortunately, nobody listened to these recommendations and advices.
Let me take those thoughts, if you don't mind, to Mr. Ala in Erbil, because I want to try and give everyone a fair shot at this, and he's been waiting patiently for a while. So that point which the art was raising there, the need for perhaps a technocrat government, is that not in effect what it seems Haider al-Abadi is now proposing? He's saying, you know, let's remove this quota system for government, for sectarian and party interests. Let's have people who are qualified. Are you optimistic, Ala?
Well, somehow, because I think we need technocrat government. We need independent people. We need people who are not fulfilling the agendas, the foreign agendas. The problem is not only the politicians are different between each other, but the problem is the fulfillment and the obeying of the foreign agendas. This is the problem. He is Iraqi, but he is presenting some agenda here or there. So this is the real pathology. So if we can collect ourselves as Iraqis, unifying our political views as Iraqis, independent, and we prepare and make ready some technocrat, the people who all say those people are really, efficient and technocrat, we can have some change.
All right.
As a beginning for the change.
We've got only a few minutes left, so I want to come back to Mr. Muwaffaq and say, let's get into some specifics here. If the proposals are serious, sir, about removing sectarian interests from the government, why not take steps which human rights organizations have been calling for, disbanding militias that operate within ministries and security forces, scrapping the anti-terror law?
There is no militias now in Iraq. There was a militia before June last year, yes, but all these militias are now incorporated in the Popular Mobilization Forces, which they're fighting the ISIS terrorist group. So there are no militias. But
forgive me, sir. So would you disagree with Human Rights Watch, which said on April 13th that the appointment of a member of the abusive, this is Human Rights Watch's words, not mine, the appointment of a member of the abusive Badr militia as Interior Minister and another Badr member as Human Rights Minister reflects an inability or unwillingness on the part of the al-Abadi government to rein in militias?
I'm going to refrain from using a French language here, because this is really a ridiculous accusation, to say the least. But I said, and I'm going to reiterate here again, there is no military militias here now in Iraq. There are all these you call militias, formerly before the fall of Mosul and Salahuddin, June last year, yes, there were. But now, all of them, they are incorporated within the Iraqi security forces, within the federal police, within the Popular Mobilization Forces. They are working, planning, executing, arming, and working with, all their plans, and they are under the control and command and control of the the commander-in-chief, Mr. Prime Minister Abadi. So how can you call them militia? Their salary is from the government of Iraq. How can you call them militia? Their plan, their command and control, all their work are within the Iraqi security
All right,
forces.
you've made that point,
So I
Mr.
think
Muwaffaq. I'm
calling
afraid
militia is very a misnomer at least.
we are out of time. This is a subject that we could go on discussing, so we look forward to picking it up perhaps on another episode with all three of you. Let's thank all three of you for now, though. From Baghdad, Muwaffaq al-Rabai, from Erbil, Ala Makki, and Mr. Diya al-Asadi from Basra. And thank you for joining us. We'd like to hear from you as well, so you can get in touch by going to our programme page at aljazeera.com or post your comments on facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. From me, Sami Zaidan, and the whole team, for now, it's goodbye.